Good evening, Connect Church. We are so glad you are joining us tonight, Wednesday night, for our night school. We are so excited. Pastor Caleb has got a great word for you, and so we can't wait to share that with you tonight. But we want you to click share. We're asking that you just drop a comment when you post that, just inviting your friends to join you tonight. Like this post, share this post. Go ahead and invite your friends to join us. It's going to be a really good time tonight. We also want you to go ahead and comment if you have a prayer need. We want to believe God with you tonight. So whatever your situation is, drop that in the comments, and we're going to have a time of prayer tonight with you. If you are joining us, go ahead and say hello, where you are watching from. We would love to know where you are at tonight. If you're at work, if you're at home, if you're in another state, we would love to hear from you. Just want to tell you about a couple of things. There will not be a Zoom call tomorrow night with our Power Zone kids. That's next Thursday. So make sure that you tune in for that. They always have a great time. Saturday is a big day here at the church. We're going to have a food packing party, and we brought in, my God, I think about 7,000 pounds of food. And so we're going to pack up 100 boxes of food, and we need your help. And so if you'll come out at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, we're going to bag up groceries. We're going to bag up meat, dairy, produce, all kinds of great stuff. And if you need food this week, we're asking that you come on Sunday starting at 11:30. We have a drive-through distribution, so it's no contact. We ask that you don't get out of your car and you stay in. You just pull up. We'll put the box of food in there for you, and you're just on your way. And so come out. It's going to be lots and lots of food on Sunday. If you have neighbors, if you have friends that are in need of food, please have them come out Saturday and join us. So if you've got a prayer, if you're just joining us, if you've got a prayer need that you want us to pray about, go ahead and drop that in the comments. We are looking to pray for your needs. We had a great time last night in prayer. Testimonies have already come forth of how the Lord even instantaneously healed somebody's knee last night as we were praying. And so we know that God is in prayer. We know that he can do anything and everything. And so we want to agree to tonight for your needs. So make sure that you drop those in the comments. Like I said, if you're just signing on, we've got a great night tonight. Pastor Caleb's going to bring a great word, so we're really excited to hear that. We are going to have a food distribution on Sunday at 11:30, a drive-in, so come out for that. And then we've got boxes that we're going to pack on Saturday, so you can join us for that as well. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Pastor Caleb.
What's up, Connect Church? Hope you're having a great day so far. We're so glad you joined us this week for night school. We are excited about it. I just want to say what's up to everybody. Hope everybody's good. Pastor Mark's watching from home. Jay's watching. Brother Dallas is watching. I hope you're doing good. Comment. That's just what I want you to do. Comment. Today we're talking about David and Goliath. David and Goliath. Today I want you to comment and says, I know how this story ends. Comment that right now. I know how this story ends. David and Goliath is one of these stories that you hear throughout the world today that has no connection to the Bible. Sports uses it, movie uses it, many interpretations of this situation happens all the time. In your workplace, You can say, man, this thing coming against me is Goliath, man. It's a David and Goliath situation. So I want you to comment right now. I know how the story ends because we are going to do a little twist today. I'm not going to give you the normal David and Goliath story. Today I'm going to give you a what-if story. I'm going to tell you about a what-if situation if David acted differently than what he actually did. To show you how good God is and letting David do what he did. So I'm going to give you what-if situation. Maybe put yourself in the situation that David was in so you can understand more how this whole thing went about. So we're going to start off with 1 Samuel 17, verses 45 through 51. I'm going to go right to the meat of it because you already know how the story ends. David versus Goliath. It says, David replied to the Philistine, "You have come to me with a sword, a spear, and a javelin. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of the heavenly armies, whom you have defined." Make sure we clarify that. You can come to me with whatever sword you have, whatever weapon you have, but I come with the power of the Lord, which you have defined. Today the Lord will conquer you, and I will kill you and cut off your head. And then I will give your dead bodies of your men to the bird and the wild animals around us, to show that there is a God of Israel. Anyone assembled here will know the Lord rescued his people, but not by sword or spear. This battle is the Lord's, and he will give us to you. And Goliath moved closer and attacked quickly. Listen to this next phrase now. David returned the favor and ran to meet Goliath. Okay? Ran to meet Goliath, reaching into his bag, taking out of a stone. And wait, you already know how the story goes. You know how this story ends. So we're going to wind it back some. That morning, David's father comes to him and says, "Hey, wake up. I need you to get some food, get some cheese, some drink, take it to your brothers who are fighting down in this battle." So David, as we know, did that stuff and went to the battle. But to me, what if he actually acted like a 17-year-old teenager? Because if you didn't know, David was 17 when he did this. A 17-year-old kid versus a Goliath. What if David got woken up by his father and said, "Hey, go give your brother some stuff"? He went, sucked his teeth a little bit, eye rolled a little bit. What if he acted like a normal teenager? Yep, I said it. I was a youth pastor for years. What if he acted like a normal teenager and said, all right, if I have to, took his time though, changed his clothes, gave himself some breakfast, wasn't in no rush, and he missed Goliath about 30 minutes. Missed Goliath in 45 minutes. This would be a whole different story. Think about if David acted like a teenager in a situation that looked ordinary. I have 3 words for you tonight that I want you to think about. The first one I want to talk about is ordinary. David had an opportunity for a supernatural thing in his future. But with his father, it was an ordinary morning. It was an ordinary situation. What if David acted like an ordinary teenager? What if David acted like something was not that big of a deal and acted on his own time, on his own schedule, and didn't move along accordingly? Do you think this story would have been that much entertaining as it is now? David walked up 30, 45 minutes late, gave the food to his brothers, Nothing was going on because he missed Goliath calling people out. He says what's up to his brother. See you guys. Go back home and go sleep. Probably hops on Fortnite. Take a selfie on the Instagram while he's walking back and forth. Would be a whole completely different story. What if David understood that he wasn't ordinary because he was already anointed to be king? What if he looked at his dad and said, Dad, I'm no delivery boy. I've already been anointed to be king. I'm the next for the throne. I'm not Uber Eats. Oh, what? That's too real? That's too today terms? Uber Eats? Come on now. Grubhub, this whole pandemic, I've been using all the time. What if David acted like that? David said, no, I've already been anointed king. I don't have to take them anything. Why? Why do I need to be different? Why do I need to be, why can I not be just the ordinary teenager? Could have made David mad. Could have made him real salty. Could have made him real upset that his dad was asking him to do this. But no, David did it anyway. A lot of times we present ourselves with situations like this when we face a Goliath. And your Goliath could be anything. In the church world, we put it to anything. But really, when it comes back to it, Goliath is a thing that's keeping you from your Father's will. Keeping you from fixing or finishing or continuing on your way on your Father's will. What I would say and how it actually went, because David didn't act like a normal teenager. David acted like the man after God's own heart for a reason. And that's why God chose him. When David acted in the ordinary and did what he was supposed to do and acted like his normal self, when he acted in the ordinary, the opportunity presents itself for a supernatural situation. Hear that now. He did a normal step in the ordinary. What he should have done, that's what he should do, and how he should act. It opened a door down the road for something of the supernatural to happen. Because he took a step in the ordinary. Because if he didn't take a step in that ordinary, it would be a whole different story. What happens if David got there and he was late? What would the scenario be? Okay, so we went through ordinary. We figured out, okay, David, he got there, blah, blah, blah. Next step. Say he did that first. First ordinary thing. He did it. The second thing I'm going to talk to you about is when David got there, he heard the Goliaths talking. So he got there on time. Because we don't know the time and place when God is going to let the supernatural opportunity come in front of you. Come on, listen. You don't know when God is going to open a supernatural opportunity for your life. But just because David took the opportunity in the ordinary step that he takes in that morning, it set him up for that night. Set him for that day, for that event, for that thing that happened in your life. So David gets to the first thing he does is he drops the stuff off with the keeper of goods. So David completed his mission according to his father. To go deliver this to his brothers, which they had to turn it in to the keeper, and the keeper would give it to the brothers. Okay? So David took his stuff to there, and then he started walking through the camp. It said then David went to the battle lines, and he positioned himself for another opportunity. David gave his food up to the keeper, and then he heard Goliath. So he walks out to his brothers, walks out to the rest of the army men, and says, so who is this guy? Who is this guy talking, running his mouth, defining my God? Who's the one talking trash? Okay? This is when the next word is going to come into you. The next word that I'm going to say to you is this. It's offense. David had a perfect opportunity to be offended in this next situation. The army was sitting there worried about this guy. They kept saying, Goliath, this is him, he's too big to kill. Well, David said, he is too big to miss. Because why? His mentality was different than what the army were sitting there. The army's been sitting there 40 days hearing this guy come out and talk and bash their God. David, someone who's fresh to a situation, come into a situation and hears this thing and is ready to act. He's not sitting there making excuses. He's sitting there not saying this guy is too big. This guy is too big to miss. Because I know what I've done before. So let's talk about the offense. The offense comes with his brother. David goes and he talks, asks what's going on. And in 1 Samuel 17:28, David's oldest brother, Eliab, heard David talking to the men. He was angry. Says, what are you doing here anyway? He demanded David to respond. What about those few sheep that you're supposed to be taking care of? So his brother was mad, and his brother come and insult him. He said, I know about the pride and deceit. You just want to see the battle. His brother was sitting there poking him. And David, what if David took the offense from his brother? What if David got into a heated argument and started a fight, started a thing with the whole army, where they're fighting with themselves, and took offense of what his brother said to him and focused on that more than focused on Goliath? Now, there's been two opportunities where David could have gone different routes, where this whole thing could be a whole different story. So his brother there is sitting there talking to him, talking trash to him, belittle the job that he does. And David the whole time could be sitting there like, excuse me, bro. I'm supposed to be king. I'm next. Do you know who I am? You might be my bigger brother, but do you know who I am? David could have taken offense to it the whole time. He could have sit there and fought back, could have sit there and argue, could have sit there and thrown hands, could have fought with each other, and it could have been a whole issue. And guess what? He would miss Goliath, because Goliath already been speaking. That whole situation would have gone off, and then the Israelites would be in the same situation. So he might have had a scuffle with his brother. He might have go home, might be marked up a little bit, dirt everywhere. Had to explain to his dad what happened. Oh, hey, Dad, I got in a fight with Eliab. I'm sorry. We threw hands. We got mad at each other. That offense could have changed the whole story. So through 7 verses, how 2 opportunities already has come to David, what he could have changed the whole narrative of what the David and the Goliath story. But what? We know how the story ends. But the problem is, David didn't know how the story ends. David didn't get a chance to read 1 Samuel and read the scripture and say, oh, this is what I'm doing. I already know that I win this battle. No, what David had is, we understood what we had because of what we can read. David knew what he had because of experience. Hear this. David knew what he had because of his experience, because he had to face things before in his life that he didn't have anybody help besides God. He had nothing to help him, nothing to push him through besides God. And that's why he was already the anointed one. That's why they said that he was going to be the next king. That's why he's the one after God's own heart. So, in this debate back and forth with his brother, or not debate, the conversation with his brother's talking a lot, and you don't hear David's talk yet. Well, David says this to him. David says, what have I done? And this is the best part I love. David gave him a jab and then moved on. He said, I was only asking a question. Then he walked away and asked somebody else what was going on. Why? Because when David walked away from his brother and walked away from the offense, and he shifted himself to another situation, it lined himself up with the Goliath. Come on. Listen, when you can stay away from offenses, when you can stay away from being your feelings hurt, when you can look away from stuff like this, when you can hold on to, because the devil's trying to trip you up one last time, try to trip you up, and you walk away and you focus and ask somebody else, but you focus and you line yourself up right to Goliath, you get to face the thing and get able to walk in the supernatural thing that God is unleashing in your life. Come on. Come on. Listen, you might not know how your story ends, but we read in the Bible how his story ends. Okay? That's number 2. Talking about offense. Going to the third word now. We had ordinary, we had offense. Now the third one's only. Only. So after David turned and asked another person the question, he got the answers. Found out that it says, yeah, Saul's got a big prize for whoever kills Goliath. So David, as a single 17-year-old man, was like, hey, what's the prizes? What do I get if I kill Goliath? Well, you get Saul's hottest daughter, and you get to live tax-free. Well, I know as most men at 17-year-old, they'll say, sign me up. Okay? I'm not lying. But the part that the problem is, David goes and talks to Saul. And David explains his history. This is when I love this. David started explaining his history and says, I have beaten a bear and killed it. I have beaten a lion and killed it. I have beaten bigger things than me, stronger things than me, meaner things than me. And Saul's reply was, but you're only a boy. Comment only right now. He said, you're only a boy. Who have put the word only in your life? Who have put you in a category that you're only this? Ready? You're only a woman. You're only a man. You're only a teenager. You're only this. You're only that. Who has put you in that category before? So Saul's looking at David, and he says, you're only a boy. And I think this was the last-ditch effort that the enemy tried to trip up David. Why? Because he said, you're only a boy, and he gives us in our weakest moment. David's weakest thing probably at that moment was that he was 17 years old, that he was a boy still. But they don't understand, on that farmland, with those sheep, with that bear, with that lion, my man David was a man. David was a grown man who knew how to defeat things and fight things. So then the next step is when David stayed persistent to him. And he kept saying, you're only a boy. He goes, I got it. I've done this before. Saul tries to cloak him in Saul's armor. Now, I don't know if you know this, but usually, in the Bible, they said Saul was head and shoulders above everyone in Israel when he got to be king. So that means Saul was tall and was probably a big man. David was 17. David wasn't the biggest in his family because Samuel saw the biggest in his family and thought he was the one that was going to be king. And God said, no, I'm not looking on the outside. So I know David wasn't the biggest in his family, but I know Saul was one of the biggest person, if not the biggest person, in Israel. So Saul tries to give him his armor. I don't know if you've ever been with somebody or hung out with somebody that if you're a large, if you're a medium, and they give you a 1X, a 2X, a 3X shirt, shorts, shoes, you can't function. And the best thing that I was going to say is shoes. To me, I can tie a shirt tighter. I can tie shorts tighter. And armor I know is different, but to put it in our world, to me, if I wear size 12 shoes, so I have a pretty big foot. But if I wore Shaq shoes, I'm pretty sure Shaq's size shoe was 28, if I remember right. If I wore Shaq shoes and tried to go out and play basketball, I would not be able to play. I would not be able to run. I would not be able to move. Why? Those shoes were not made for me. Those shoes were made for somebody that wears a 28 size foot shoe. Saul's armor does not fit him. Why? Because that's not the armor that David walked in. The armor that David walked in was the armor of God. Listen now, this is what people don't connect to. David didn't need armor because he walked in the armor of God. He knew who his father was. He knew what his foundation was. He knew what his shoes, his helmet, his belt, his chest plate, all this stuff in the armor of God. David knew this stuff. David walked in his anointing. David walked in his teaching and walked in the knowledge that God has poured into him and others have poured into him. So David looked at Saul and said, "No, I'm good." Well, then Saul said, "But you only have your clothes on. You only have your clothes on." Yeah, but David responds to him, and I love his response. He said, I don't need your armor, because what I brought with me is the same God that I brought with me to fight the bear and to fight the lion. I brought the same God with me to come run in this valley and fight this Goliath. What if David chose to listen to the only in his life? David, you're only 12 years old. David, you're too young to be anointed. David, you're only 17. You can't do this. What if he took the offense from his brother? What are you doing out here? Don't you have some sheep you should be tending to? What if he misstepped in the ordinary? What if he tripped over the ordinary and fell on his face because he missed the supernatural? Because what we don't realize is when we take steps in the ordinary and then God opens up the supernatural, it lands you into the line of Jesus. Because we looked at David. David took a step in the ordinary, and then David killed Goliath. And then later down in David's bloodstream is where Jesus came from. So when we line ourselves into the ordinary, then we go through the supernatural with God's will. It lines up with Jesus' bloodline. If I drop this lion and if I drop this bear, I will drop this Goliath. So then the story goes, in the next scripture, we're going to jump back in between the 45 and 51. It's going to be, I believe it's verse 49. It says, David ran quickly out to meet him, reaching into his shepherd bag, taking out his stone. He hurled it with one sling of his wrist, and he nailed the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank into Goliath, and he fell face down on the ground. So let me just give you an illustration here. David's running at Goliath. And it says Goliath was coming to David. David pulled out this rock and slung it and hit Goliath dead in the forehead. Goliath's 9'2". Hit him in his forehead so hard that he fell forward. And it killed him. Hit him so hard, it sank into his forehead, which means he obviously had to crack the skull for it to sink into the forehead. Because if you hit your forehead right now, you can say your skull's right there. So he obviously had to crack the skull and break the skull for the rock to sink into the forehead so that it killed him. My favorite part of this is coming up in this next thing. So David triumphed over the Philistine. David then grabbed Goliath's sword. David then cut off the head of Goliath. So David not only threw the rock and the stone to kill this Goliath, he went and cut his head off. Later on in the scriptures, when he's walking back into the army base, if you want to call it, while the rest of the Israelites are going chasing and fighting the Philistines, David's walking back in holding the head of Goliath. And it says he takes it to his house and he keeps it. David keeps this because he knew what he did. And the thing that I love about this and what I want to show you is, doesn't matter. We come to a point in life where we talk about David and Goliath, and it's always an uphill battle. It's how we compare it to. But for me, when I read this Bible and read these scriptures, I don't see it as an uphill battle because I view it the way David viewed it. Hear me on this now. David doesn't feel like this is an uphill battle because he already knows what he can do. The line right here that says, I brought the same God into this valley that I brought to me into the wilderness against the bear and the lion. David did not see this as an uphill battle. The army that was hearing him talk for 40 days, Saul that heard him talk for 40 days, might have thought it was an uphill battle for one of them. But David realized the God that was on his side. David realized the person who has his back. David realized the power that was in him because who lives in him, that he was going to face this guy just like he faced the bear, just like he faced the lion, that it was not an uphill battle. I already know I can win this because I already know how the story ends. David might not have known how the story ended with Goliath. But David went and he faced these lions and these bears before, and he knows how that story ends. So David didn't lack confidence. Let me just tell you, if I know how my story ends, I'm not going to lack confidence. Why? Because I know I can go out and perform what I need to perform in confidence. David knew who was on his side. David knew who was with him in them rocks, in his bones, in his wrists when he flung the rock, in the sling, when he killed the bear, when he killed the lions, when he's taking care of the sheep, when he's taking care of the farm. Doesn't matter where he is. David knew who the power that runs through him comes from. We might not know our story end. We don't know how our story ends. Because it's still being, our life's still being written. We still have stuff going on in our life. But let me just tell you, David didn't know the ending to Goliath. But he had the confidence that he knew the ending because of what happened with the bear and the lion. So if you build your faith, if you build your walk, if you walk around with the armor of God on and you defeat these things as you go that might be bigger than you, might be a little bit bigger than you, maybe not Goliath, but maybe I'm 6'1", maybe somebody that's 6'3" I beat. Okay, then I beat somebody 6'5". Okay, yeah. I have the confidence now. Why? Because of the thing that's been behind me, the thing that I've been able to fight through, I can fight these guys. Why? So then when I face a 9'2" giant, there is no hesitation. There is no ordinary. There is no offense. There is no only that's going to be able to stop me because I know the power that lives in me, that I defeated this thing, I defeated that thing. Now I know I can defeat him. Whatever your Goliath is, you can defeat. Doesn't matter what you think it is. And I said to you earlier, your Goliath in your life is something that's keeping you from the will of God. So if there's something in your life, listen to this. There's something in your life that is keeping you from the will of God that seems like a Goliath. That's the thing you tackle. There might be things on the side that you think is a big deal, that you think God is, if it's not affecting your will, God's will for your life. I know this is hard sometimes to let stuff go. But there's stuff in people's life that you need to let go that you ain't, because you know why? You're getting offense. You're missing on the ordinary. You're getting stuck on the only. Why? Because these three things, your focus here, when God is waiting for you to say, okay, I'm done with the ordinary, I'm done with the offense, I'm done with the only, let me go ask somebody else, oh, this is the giant I'm supposed to be facing. Sometimes you had to let go and turn and ask somebody else something to see the Goliath in the background. Listen, I know times are hard now. I know times are tough with this whole thing. But listen, I have confidence that my God can defeat a virus because I know how the story ends. Because he's defeated viruses before. I know my God can defeat cancer. Why? Because he has defeated cancer before. I know God can defeat the division in our world. Why? Because he has done it before. So I don't know what in your life you're facing. But let me just tell you, if you worry about the offense, if you worry about the ordinary, if you worry about the only, your story will be a whole different story. Because of yourself. God is waiting for you to let go of them three O's. Let go of the ordinary, let go of the offense, and let go of the only. So that you can shift yourself into a supernatural giant that you can face and defeat. I'm going to pray with you. If you want to leave your comments right now, leave your comments so we can pray with you. But I'm going to just close with this right now. I don't know what your giant is. I don't know what you're facing. I don't know what you've been through. I don't know how hard life's been for you during this whole thing. I know it's hard. I know it sucks. Okay, I know this has been one of the toughest times in our world's history. And I mean world, not just the United States, the world history with this whole virus stuff. But let me talk to you personally. I don't know what you're facing in your life. I don't know if it's financial, relationships, whatever it might be. Don't worry about the ordinary. Don't worry about the offense. And don't worry about the only. Why? Because when I lay myself down, listen here, lay myself down and let God put on the armor of God on me. When I focus on God and I focus on all these things that he can put on to cover me, there is no battle that I cannot win. There is no weapon formed against me that shall prosper. Listen, there is no weapon against you that will prosper. Nothing. Nothing the enemy can do, nothing the world can do, nothing. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. And I got the theme from the I See a Victory song. Because no matter what we go through, you can see a victory. God's opening the door for victories. But the point about doors is, you have to turn the knob and walk through it. Come on. You have to turn the knob and walk through a door. He already will unlock it for you. But you're the one that had to take the step of faith and walk through the door so that God can unlock the supernatural in your life. God, right now, we just lift up your name. God, I don't know who's watching, God. I don't know who need this. I don't know who is facing what, God. But God, I know there's no weapon formed against me that will prosper. God, I know that you are higher and stronger and bigger than anything I could ever face, God. God, right now, just as this baby that is dealing with all this stuff, God. Grace and God, God, we've seen, ready? We've seen you do this before, and we know you can do it again. We know how this battle ends, God. We know how you win this battle, God. So right now we just lift Grayson up and his family, God. All the issues that is going on with him and his digestion, God. Just be with him, God. Okay, but right now, for whoever is struggling, God. God, whoever is struggling with a giant in their life. whoever's struggling with, man, I just feel like just whoever's struggling with just the world today. I don't know if it's finances or jobs or if you're just whatever you're struggling with today, God, let them know that you are there with them. Let them get the confidence in you. Let them realize that if they walk in you, they walk in victory. Hear that. If we walk in you, we walk in victory, God. God, we love you. We thank you. So we thank you that we can read this book to see how story ends. Even though our story might not be over, we know how these stories end, God. Because I'm going to see a victory. For the battle is already run. God, I love you and I thank you, God. Right now, God, we just love you and thank you, Jesus. If you have any prayer requests, put them in the comments. I don't know if Pastor Tina, if you have any.
There hasn't been any.
Okay. If you have a prayer request, go ahead and leave it now. Comment now. If not, I want to pray and close and give it back to Pastor Tina. And hope that everyone's doing good. If there's no prayer request, hey, that's awesome. I'm glad that everyone seems to be doing good. Seems to be having a great time. And I hope you enjoyed the message. I hope you all had a good time. This one's been burning in me for a while. I asked Pastor for David and Goliath because this has been on my heart. And I hope you can see the passion that I had for it because it's just a story that I love to talk about and something. The twist on it, I really appreciate that God showed me and gave me in this different style. So I hope you're enjoying night school. This is week 3. Next week, Pastor Herbie is preaching next week, and we are excited about that. Pastor Herbie is going to bring a great word. I'm excited about him. But I hope you all enjoyed this. Hope you had a great night. We love you. We thank you. I thank you for participating with me, commenting with me. Before you sign off, give me one more. I know how the story ends. Give me one more comment. I know how the story ends. I got several people watching still. Give me I know how the story ends still. And I love you guys. Thank you all so much for participating with me. I'm going to send it down to Pastor Tina now.
Oh my goodness, what a great perspective on David and Goliath. I've heard that preached many, many times, but I've never heard it preached that way. That was an awesome word, Pastor Caleb. Thank you so much for that. That was such an encouraging word. We want to just let you know of a couple of things. Tomorrow night, there is no Zoom call for your children, so we just want you to be aware of that. That will pick up again next week. Saturday, we have a food packing party at 10 o'clock here at the church. We need all hands on deck, and so if you can come help us pack 100 boxes. We are going to be preparing boxes of food. Our food distribution is on Sunday at 11:30. It is a drive-through distribution. It is no contact. You pull up, we put the food in your car, and then you just roll on out and leave. We're trying to keep everybody as safe as possible, and so it is a no contact. We wear masks. We're social distancing from you, and so we just want to let you know 11:30, this cars start lining up, and we have got lots and lots of food. Let me show you just a little bit of what we've got going. So right here is about 5,000 jars of peanut butter. And this is all food that we're going to be distributing. We've got all kinds of soups. We've got rice. We've got spaghetti sauce. We've got bread, produce, bakery. We've got canned fruit. We've got yams. We've got tuna. I mean, you name it. This is a ton of food, and we've got double this back in the kitchen that we're going to be boxing for you. So make sure that you come out, you join us on Saturday for this packing party. It takes a lot of hands to make this thing run off, and we want it to go without any hitches, any hiccups. So come out 10 o'clock on Saturday morning to help us bag this up, and then we'll be giving it out on Sunday morning. Tell your friends, tell your family if they need food. I think the last time we gave out some boxes, it weighed about 47 pounds. And so we want you to tell your friends and your family to come out. get some food, take it to a neighbor. If you know a neighbor that's housebound, that can't get out, take them some food. Bless them and be a blessing to them. And then Sunday morning at 9 and 11, we want you to join us in the house if you can. We've been having a celebration party of God and what He's doing. So come and be in the house. But if you can't and you still are a little bit unsure, not feeling really comfortable, you can check us out on 4 different platforms. You can go to Facebook Live, you can go to Vimeo, you can go to YouTube, you can go to Connect Church 757. You can view us on any of those platforms. Come, be a part. We just would love to see you and love on you. We also want to let you know that you can give tonight. You can give through the text to give, our Cash App. You can give on our website if you would. We want to thank you for your giving. Your giving helps to make all of our outreaches and all of our things possible. And so we thank you so much for being faithful and obedient to what God has called us to do. We love you guys. We hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you Sunday.